Today, we're recapping a movie called 1 Hour Photo, often regarded as one of the most underrated thrillers of the early 2000s. It tells the story of a man whose job allows him to peer into the lives of others, clinging to fragments of their happiness to fill the emptiness in his own soul. The protagonist, Cy, is a single middle-aged man. He is withdrawn, usually silent, with no family around and no close friends. His main job is working in the photo printing department of a big box store, helping customers develop and print their photos. Cy has been doing this for more than 20 years. To others, the job may seem boring and monotonous, but Cy himself enjoys it. He feels his own life is like an underexposed negative, dark and blurry. By printing photos for customers, he can glimpse fragments of their colorful lives, which brings him happiness. Among the many customers, Cy especially envies the life of Nina's family. Nina is a beautiful, charming, and gracious full-time housewife. Her husband Will has a successful career, and their son Jake is lively and adorable. Nina loves recording her son's growth and their vibrant family life through the lens of her camera. For Cy, who is utterly alone, the thing he longs for most in life is to have such a happy and complete family. Unfortunately, even though he is over 50, Cy is still solitary. He has neither a wife nor children, nor even close friends. He projects all his hopes for a beautiful life onto Nina's family. Every time Nina comes to the store to develop photos, Cy is especially enthusiastic. Beyond that, he secretly makes an extra set of prints of Nina's family photos, takes them home, and pastes them on his bedroom wall as a private collection. Gradually, photos of Nina, her husband, and her son fill an entire wall of Cy's bedroom. After work each day, Cy's greatest pleasure is quietly admiring these photos and fantasizing about becoming part of this family. Sometimes, he even deliberately looks through Nina's family photos in public to attract attention. Whenever someone asks him about his connection to the people in the pictures, he proudly claims that they are his sister, brother-in-law, and nephew. On her son's 9th birthday, Nina held a lively little party at home and took many photos. Afterward, as usual, she brought her son to the store to develop them. Cy eagerly struck up conversation with her. During their chat, he secretly took a Polaroid camera from the store's inventory and gave it to Nina's son as a gift. Unexpectedly, this act of generosity with company property was witnessed by the store manager, Bill. Over the years, Cy had repeatedly printed photos for himself in secret, consuming large amounts of paper and chemicals. This time, seeing with his own eyes that Cy had stolen store merchandise to give away, the manager was furious. After Nina and her son left, he called Cy into his office and fired him on the spot. However, after losing his job, Cy was not too upset. On the contrary, this gave him even more time to spy on Nina's family. In the days that followed, Cy frequently drove to the neighborhood where Nina's family lived, secretly watching their movements. Sometimes he would even fantasize about moving into Nina's home as a relative, experiencing their family life up close. But such vague fantasies could never satisfy his real desires. To truly become part of Nina's family, he began actively creating opportunities to approach Nina and her son. At times, Cy would go to the park to watch Nina's son play soccer, offering him a few words of encouragement in the tone of an elder. Other times, he deliberately staged chance encounters with Nina on the street and exchanged small talk. In order to gain Nina's sympathy, Cy even bought a photo of a woman resembling Nina from a thrift shop and lied that she was his mother who had passed away many years ago. Through these repeated contacts, Nina and her son gradually lowered their guard against the gentle Cy. But just when Cy thought he was becoming closer to them, an unexpected discovery disrupted everything. One evening, while admiring Nina's family photos, Cy happened to notice a group picture of Nina's husband, Will, with his colleagues. Among them was a woman who looked familiar. After thinking for a while, Cy finally remembered. Her name was Maya. On the day before he was fired, Maya had come to the store to develop a set of intimate photos of herself and her boyfriend. At the time, Cy thought the man in the photos looked very much like Nina's husband, Will. However, being so obsessed with Nina's family, he hadn't paid much attention then, dismissing it as a coincidence. But now it dawned on him. Maya's boyfriend might actually be Nina's husband, Will. In other words, Will was likely having an affair. This thought stuck in Cy's throat like a bone. That night, after the store closed, Cy used a spare key he had hidden away to sneak into the photo department. He remembered clearly that Maya had casually mentioned she was going on a business trip and wouldn't pick up her photos for about 2 weeks. By his calculation, the photos should still be there. Sure enough, Cy quickly found the envelope marked with Maya's name. Pulling out the prints and inspecting them closely, he he saw that the man intimately posing with Maya was indeed Will. It was now undeniable. Will was cheating on Nina with his colleague. In an instant, the perfect image of Nina's family collapsed in Sai's heart. He felt deeply confused and furious. How could Will, who already had such a wonderful family, still go chasing after other women? Over the past months, Sai had come to regard Nina as his own sister. He could not allow her to be deceived by her husband. So he secretly slipped one of the intimate photos of Will and Maya into the envelope labeled with Nina's name. As just moments earlier, while searching for Maya's photos, he also noticed that Nina had an envelope of photos that she had not yet picked up. He hoped that once Nina saw the photo of Will with Maya, she would finally recognize Will's true nature. The next evening, Nina drove to the store to collect her photos. On her way home, she unexpectedly came across the picture of her husband, Will, and Maya together. Shocked, she immediately pulled her car over to the side of the road and stared at the photo in a daze for a long time. This entire scene was witnessed by Sai, who had been following her and was peering through the car window. When Nina eventually restarted her car, Sai tailed her back to her villa. There, he set up his telephoto camera and began spying on the household through the windows. Sai fully expected to witness a heated quarrel between Nina and Will. He even hoped Nina would demand a divorce so that he could comfort her in the role of a caring brother, and thereby draw closer to her. But to Sai's surprise, when Nina entered the house, she showed no unusual behavior at all. Instead, she calmly prepared dinner, as if nothing had happened. Sai was deeply puzzled. He could not understand how Nina could remain silent in the face of such undeniable proof of her husband's infidelity. In truth, Sai had never truly seen the whole picture of Nina's family. This seemingly perfect household of three, like many ordinary families, also had a very dark side. As a full-time housewife, Nina had no independent source of income, and thus no real say in the family. Even when she wanted to buy a small household appliance, her husband Will would scold her. Faced with his affair, Nina turned a blind eye, not out of acceptance, but out of helplessness. If she openly confronted him and the conflict escalated to divorce, with her current financial situation, it would be impossible for Nina to gain custody of her son. For this reason, every time a conflict arose between her and her husband, Nina would choose to back down, desperately trying to preserve a family that was always on the verge of collapse. Without any experience in marriage, Sai could neither perceive the hidden conflicts in this household nor understand Nina's predicament. The more indignant he became, the more determined he was to punish Will himself. In the following days, Sai began to tail Will and Maya day and night. He discovered that the two of them would check into the same hotel every other day under false names to carry on their affair. This gave Sai the foundation for a plan of retribution. Before carrying it out, he first drove to the villa where the store manager lived. Taking advantage of a moment when no one was around, he used his telephoto lens to take pictures of the manager's young daughter playing in the yard. Afterward, Sai returned to the store where he used to work and asked a former colleague to develop the photos, which he then handed over to the manager. When the manager saw the photos, his face immediately turned pale. He believed that Sai, still resentful over being fired, had deliberately taken these pictures of his daughter as a threat or intimidation. Alarmed, the manager quickly asked his wife to take their daughter to her parents' home for safety. Then he called the police. Upon receiving the report, the police immediately rushed to Sai's home. But when the officers broke down the door, Sai was nowhere to be found. All they saw was a bedroom wall completely covered with photos of Nina's family of three. In every picture, Will's face had been violently scratched out with a sharp object. The officers instantly realized that for reasons unknown, Sai likely harbored murderous intent toward the man in the photos. Following the clues, the officers noticed Nina's name written on some of the photo envelopes. This led them to the address of Nina and Will's home, where they confirmed that the man Sai hated in the pictures was indeed Will. Meanwhile, Sai was still tailing Will and Maya, following them to the hotel they often used for their affair. First, he called the hotel front desk from a payphone, pretending to be a delivery man, and tricked them into confirming that Will and Maya were staying in room 511. Then, Sai booked room 519 on the same floor under his own name. After checking in, he went to room 511. Seeing that the hallway was empty, Sai knocked on the door, pretending to be hotel staff. Moments later, Maya, wrapped in a bathrobe, opened the door. Sai immediately forced his way inside. Will, completely naked, was lying on the bed with a smug expression of satisfaction. At the sight of the adulterous couple before him, Sai's fury boiled over. He pulled a gleaming knife from his backpack. Will and Maya, caught completely off guard, froze in terror, unable to move. But Sai didn't attack them. Instead, he forced Maya to remove her bathrobe and made the two pose together in intimate positions. Sai then pulled a camera from his bag and began photographing their compromising state. At the same time, two police officers who had arrived at Nina's home informed her of the situation. Terrified that her husband might be in danger, Nina hurriedly tried to call Will. But not wanting to be disturbed during his tryst, Will had already switched off his phone. Desperate, Nina contacted one of Will's close colleagues, who eventually revealed the address of the hotel where Will and Maya were staying. Upon learning this, the two officers rushed to the hotel. They quickly discovered that Sai had checked into room 519. However, because Will and Maya had registered under false names, it took time to confirm their room number. The officers decided to secure Sai first by entering room 519, but when they unlocked the room with the spare key, it was empty. After searching, they found only a camera and a short knife. A sense of dread fell over them. They feared Will and Maya might already have been killed. Just then, the hotel front desk called to confirm that Will and Maya were in room 511, not far from Sai's room. The two officers immediately called for backup and rushed to room 511. The door was ajar. Pushing it open, they found Will and Maya safe, though clearly shaken and terrified, as if they had been badly frightened. As for Sai, he had already slipped away through the emergency exit before the police arrived at room 511. But as soon as he reached the hotel's first floor, he was surrounded by a large number of backup officers. Realizing there was no escape, Sai surrendered without resistance. When the police later developed the film from the camera they had found in room 519, they were astonished. The photos contained only shots of hotel lamps, towels, faucets, and other trivial objects. There were no incriminating pictures of Will and Maya at all. It seemed Sai had only meant to intimidate them. The police were baffled by his actions. Sai had only briefly encountered Maya and had no direct connection to Will. Why was he so enraged by their affair? Why would he risk committing a crime just to threaten them? Faced with questioning, Sai offered no explanation. Instead, he began talking about his childhood. He said that when he was very young, he grew up in a dysfunctional family. His parents often beat and scolded him, and he never experienced the warmth of family life. As a result, he developed a withdrawn personality, prone to fantasy. After recounting his past, Sai refused to say anything further. He never admitted what truly motivated him to intimidate Will and Maya. But clearly, childhood abuse trauma, combined with his obsessive fantasy of being part of the perfect family, made Will's affair unbearable to him. In his broken mind, punishing Will was both revenge on his father and a way to protect and preserve the family he desperately wanted to belong to. At the same time, his threats against his boss's family were driven by the very same impulses: revenge against someone who had stripped him of the only stability he had left, a projection of the fear and abuse he endured as a child, and a desperate attempt to exert control over someone who held authority in his life. Will, on the other hand, was so shaken by the incident that he decided to break up with Maya and return to his family. Whether he would remain faithful in the future, however, was uncertain. Likewise, it remained unknown what legal consequences Sai would face for his actions. These actions, disturbing as they were, came from a man who had no true support system, no one to anchor him, and no one to pull him back from the brink. After all, if a person is forgotten by the entire world, then perhaps fantasy is not a mental illness, but the only medicine that can soothe a wounded soul.